Hello everybody and welcome to my personality traits tier list for Crusader Kings 3. Now, before we get started, I just want to quickly mention that this is, of course, my personal opinion of these traits. I've been playing the game for about 200 hours, so I think I have a basic understanding of the game and of all the aspects of the game. But of course, I know that a lot of people are going to disagree with me, so let me know in the comment section what you disagree on. Second, this is of course tier list for the current version of the game, which is as of September 17th version 1.0.3, which means that these traits might get, and I actually expect them, some of them, to be reworked or rebalanced, of course. With some of the DLCs upcoming, we might even see some traits being added, or maybe the trait system is gonna get reworked altogether. We don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know what Paradox has in store for us, so we'll have to see. Now, if you're gonna like this tier list, or at least the video, and you are interested in more content like this, make sure to subscribe and like. Your support is really appreciated. It helps the channel. There isn't currently, any videos really about Crusader Kings 3, but I would like to make some of them because I really love the game. I found myself in this game. It's such a great, complex Paradox game. So yeah, I think I'm gonna play it much more. So without further ado, let's get started with the tier list. Now, when I decided that I'm gonna make this tier list, as soon as I started, I knew I had to make a video about it, right? Because I just had to explain why I put certain traits in B or C or an S for that matter. So yeah, I knew immediately I'm gonna have to make a video about it. And I was deciding whether to rank these traits in this order that you see it on the screen right now, or to talk about them, I mean, in that order. But then I decided that I'm actually going to use Paradox wiki, which has, of course, much more information. So if you want to check out other stuff, there's an FAQ section that basically has all the questions that you can think of about the game. And I found some really useful answers there. So be sure to check that out. Also, quickly before we get to the wiki, I just want to say that every trait, actually I'll show you in the actual wiki, that every trait has an opposite, right? So when you're brave, you cannot be craven at the same time. It's just not possible. Craven people really dislike brave people, and vice versa. The only exception to this rule actually is the compassionate, which has two opposites, which is callous and sadistic. We'll get into these later, of course. So yeah, just so you know, every trait has an opposite. Of course, as you can see on this wiki, there are some stats that are not really shown in the game, which is why I decided to use this wiki. For example, boldness, which basically means there's a I hope you've played the game already. There is dread stat that your leader or any other leader can have, and that's compared to the boldness of a character. Some traits increase the boldness. The higher the boldness, the basically easier it is to not get terrified by the leader, right? You can search this up on Google, of course, but basically more boldness means that you're less likely to be terrified by your leader or by your liege, for that matter. And of course, if you're a leader, the higher your dread is, you can terrify some of your vassals. But if they, for example, have the trait brave, that means it's really, really hard to actually terrify them. I think it's actually impossible because the dread is the maximum for dread is 100, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, you cannot actually, I think, terrify a brave vassal of yours. All right. There are some other AI effects, of course. Some of them, the most useful ones, I think, are for when you're, for example, deciding who to give, land to, who to give counties to. Content has minus 75 greed, which means it's really good to give some land to a vassal who has content. There are some other traits, but there's minus 200, which is generous. Yeah, there's more stuff like that. I didn't really dwell into this too much. I didn't dig deep into the stats. Just so you know, they are there, which is why I'm making this video on the wiki. Now let's talk about the actual tiers in the list. So I've decided to split this up into like 6 categories, as you can see in the key. So S represents God tier, which means it's like unbelievably strong trait, which is always useful. Basically, these traits have really like no downsides. I can say, like, yeah, no downsides at all, like other than some stress gain or something like that, which is not really that important. They either really like increase your stats, they can increase your health. Yeah, just overall really good traits. A is for strong tier, strong traits. So either for strong situational traits or like strong traits overall. Brave is a good example of that. It's just a strong trait overall. Like, you know, deceitful is like a strong situational trait if you wanna, you know, do sneaky stuff. Yeah, B for decent, C for weak, D for awful, and then there is E category, which is just choke tier. I really don't like these traits, but we'll get into that in a second. All right. Anyway, so we're gonna start with Brave. Now, I really like Brave. I think it's a really good trait for my type of playstyle because I really like to be, you know, all about like military. I really like the martial skills. I like the education tree, martial education tree. So I really like Brave. The thing is, it's not always useful, I guess, right? If you're running a diplomatic character or a stewardship character, it's really not that useful for you. Like martial, yeah, it's fine, you know, it increases your level size, stuff like that. Prowess is just useless for you then. You know, vassal opinion, attraction opinion, same trait opinion, that's all fine, right? The reason why I actually didn't put this into S tier, because like it really doesn't have a lot of downsides. Like opposite trait opinion, all of these have it, right? Stress loss through hunkening is just excellent as well. It's amazing. The only reason why I didn't put this in S tier is because of this thing: likelihood of capture or death in battle. So when you have this trait, that usually means that your leader, is good at warfare, and that he might be leading the armies, because of course you get a bonus for leading your own army as a leader. The problem is that it can really like destroy your game, basically, this trait, because you're just so like 100% more likely to die in battle, which means it might even be game over if you don't have your heir. You know, it's like, yeah. So this is why I actually, so you can see it, I actually put Brave into A, because as I said, I think it's a good trait. I really love it. It doesn't have a lot of, you know, downsides, but the 100% likelihood of capture or death in battle can just be a life and death situation, basically, which is why Brave is in A. Alright, the opposite trait of that is Craven. Now, as you can see, Craven has the opposite, like, you're not gonna get captured or die in battle, most likely. But that's all there is about it, about this trait, really. Like, it decreases your martial by 2, it decreases your prowess by 3. It lowers your vassal's opinion and your attraction opinion. It's such a bad trait. You know, I forgot to mention, there are some like events, you know, that like utilize some traits. It's actually written in the tiers, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, right here, right down here. Like some of these traits, of course, can be really good for certain situations. What I didn't mention is that some of these traits, or basically every faith, has some virtues and sins. It's usually 3, if I'm not mistaken, of each. But, you know, depending on the doctrines and stuff like that, it can get increased or decreased. So they all have virtues and sins. Virtues increase opinion of the other characters have. So, like, for example, if let's say the brave was you know, a virtue, that means that you get plus 10 opinion with every other character of the same faith, which is really good. Plus, it also increases your faith by 1. My faith per month, of course. So that's really good. You know, having virtues is really good for your characters, unless you want to change your fate, of course. But we won't get into that in this video, of course. The other thing is, as I said, it's the events. You know, so there are some events that you can use certain options that wouldn't otherwise be available if you have, for example, Brave. With Craven, these options that you sometimes get in these events are just never good. They're really never good. Like you have to, like it you know, it shows when you want to hide or something, and it always like decreases your prestige or something like that. So Craven is just not a good trade in my eyes. So that's why I actually put it in E tier, which is, well, the key is here. I didn't really explain it, but it's a joke tier. Like, you know, I just put, why is this even in the game? I understand why it's there. It's just, it's not a good trade, really. All right, moving on. We have Calm. Calm is an overall like B tier trade for me. It increases your diplomacy by 1, intrigue by 1. It's just good stats, I guess. Both of them, really. Stress loss is like okay-ish. Scheme discovery chance is okay, I guess. The thing that's really bad for Calm is the dread decay. Like, you want your dread as high as possible. You don't want it to decay 50% faster, which is why I decided to put Calm in the B tier, because it can be really good. Like the stats are good, you know. It really doesn't have any downsides other than the dread decay, which is kind of detrimental though. So it's a solid B, you know, nothing too fancy about it. Some events that I've encountered so far, you know, Calm can really hurt your, well, like it increases your stress that you gain basically, because like usually what I like to do is play, you know, this military guy, you know, putting people in prison, stuff like that. So every trade, which is like calm, compassionate, stuff like that, that actually increases your stress. So it's really not that good, but that's just my personal preference when I play these kind of characters, you know. So usually calm is really good, and as I said, solid B tier for me. Alright, the opposite of calm is wrathful. Now, again, as you can see, I really like wrathful because it increases your martial by 3, which is a kind of huge boost actually, 3. And also it increases your natural dread by 20, which means you'll always have some dread basically, right? Unless you have some other traits that increase it. So yeah, it's just really good. It decreases your diplomacy by 1 and your intrigue by 1, which kind of sucks. But like overall, I think wrathful is just a really good trait. I think it's definitely better than calm, especially for my playstyle usually. So that's why I decided to put wrathful in A, because I just like that trait. I really do. All right, moving on. Chaste. Now, I had some difficulties putting chaste and lustful into like this tier list, you know, because sometimes those are basically the only traits that increase or decrease your fertility, which could be a good thing, but it could be a bad thing depending on how you want to play this game, right? So yeah, chaste decreases your fertility by 25%, which means you're less likely to have children. Now, if you get another event or something that decreases your fertility, that basically means you're almost guaranteed to have no children at that point, which is really bad because you do want to have at least like one or two sons, you know, like that, or well, sorry, not sons, like depending on your you know, succession laws and stuff like that, 2 heirs basically. So yeah, fertility minus 25, I really do not like that. I think it's better if it's like 0, you know, decrease in fertility is not really good. +2 learning on the other hand is, I think that's really good, but like, yeah, it's just, I cannot justify putting chaste any higher than actually D, because like the fertility loss, I think it's detrimental to this trait. Learning is nice, but if you don't have any children, your empire is just gonna crumble. So yeah, chaste is D for me. Lustful, on the other hand, I think that's just much better. Fertility increase, as we talked about, is usually good. The only you know, thing where it's not good is when you worry about your successions, right? When you have a lot of sons or a lot of heirs, it's just really hard to keep the empire together. So yeah, uh, it's so virtually. It's a double-edged sword basically. It also increases your intrigue by 2, so it's situationally useful for intrigue characters. It increases your seduction scheme power by 10%, and yeah, there's also a hidden chance that I didn't know about, which is not mentioned in the game, that it decreases the asexuality chance by 50%. So when your kids are growing up, when they're being educated, they can get these traits. There's decision that you can give them lustful, and at that point, they're much less likely to be asexual, which is good. That's just good, unless you want them to be asexual. But I don't really think you need to, or you want to do that. So yeah, lustful in my eyes is B, solid B trait. It is not higher because like plus fertility isn't always a good thing, but usually it is. So it's just a strong tier overall, or strong trait. Strong trait overall. All right, moving on. Content. Content, I actually really like. First of all, I'm gonna mention this real quick. It's really good, as I said, for your vassals, because vassal who's content, you can usually give him land, and even if he is a powerful vassal, he's not gonna expect anything from you. He's not gonna expect a council position. So yeah, content is really good for vassals. For you, I also feel like it's really good, unless you're playing an intrigue character. +2 learning is just amazing. Stress loss is okay. +10 opinion of vassals is just good. It's +10. It's decent. And if you are actually playing a vassal in your empire, you have a liege, then +20 opinion of liege is really good as well. So yeah, content I really like. There are some events, or like some events where you have the decision to do something, and content causes some stress for you because like you shouldn't be greedy and stuff like that, right? But yeah, usually content is just good. So yeah, it's a solid A in my eyes. All right, moving on. We have ambitious. Now, I don't usually say that. Usually it's like one or the other. Chaste is good, lustful is chaste is bad, lustful is good, brave is good. Craven is bad. But like with these two, I feel like they're both really good. Ambitious is not good, of course, for your vassals, by the way. But for your character, it just increases every single stat, every single skill by 1. Even prowess. It's just like +6 overall. It's just too good, man. I feel like it's too good. It also increases the stress gain, which is not a good thing, of course, but you can usually fight off stress really good. Like, you have hunts, you have feasts, you can have a trait after you reach stress level 1. Usually, you get a chance to take like athletic, which is a good trait. Like, it helps you decrease the stress whenever you want, really. The other downside is opinion of leash is decreased, but yeah, like at least I usually don't play under a leash, or like I can fight this opinion off with like swaying him and stuff like that. So yeah, I really like ambitious. I think it's a really good trait, and that's why I put it in S tier, which means God tier, of course. All right, then we have diligent, which is almost like ambitious. I'll keep it here so you can compare these. It doesn't increase your prowess, which is like, oh, okay. Stress gain is there. It's only 20% compared to 25, so it's not really a difference. It doesn't decrease your opinion of leash, so it's almost the same, really. The good thing is you can actually, have your vassal have this trait, because diligent doesn't have the greed penalty, or well, the greed bonus, I should say. So yeah, you can actually have a vassal with diligent, which is fine. I think they're too similar, which is why it's an S tier as well. Maybe ambitious is a little bit better for the prowess, but it really depends. So yeah, diligent in my book, S tier as well. The opposite of that is lazy. Yeah. I just don't like lazy, man. Alright, the only upside is plus 15% stress loss. Who cares? honestly, like, who the fuck cares, you know? It decreases every other stat by one. Yeah, I don't want to talk about Lazy anymore. It's just an E tier, together with Craven, as we talked about. Like, these traits are just so bad for your character. They're really detrimental for your character, actually. So there's actually this event. When you have a kid, right? He can pick between 3 traits when you educate him. Sometimes you have this unlucky event that you can pick between Lazy, Craven, Fickle, I think, or Shy is the third one. They're just all too bad. Like, yeah, I feel like all the foring the game, like, at that point, but yeah, just not very good traits. All right, Fickle. Yeah, that's actually one that I talked about right now. Fickle, I really disliked in the beginning. Now, like, when I get it by accident, I'm not that mad. It's not that terrible. It's not like great, but it's not terrible. It increases your diplomacy by 1, which is okay. You get plus 20% hostile scheme resistance, which is good actually. Some of the hostile schemes can, as we said it with Brave, like, your character dying can just end the game for you immediately. So when someone's trying to murder you, that can definitely help. Which is why, like, this trait is not E tier, you know, it's just D in my eyes. It has -2 stewardship as well. But yeah, as I said, Fickle in my eyes is D tier. Like, it doesn't really give you that much. It only gives you +1 diplomacy and a situational bonus of those 20% hostile scheme resistance. And it decreases your stewardship by 2. Which means, like, it's too bad, honestly. Like, 2 is quite a lot. Stewardship is an important stat when you're leading a county or a duchy or whatever. So yeah, I do not like Fickle that much, but I'm okay with getting it, I guess. The opposite is Stubborn, which I really like. Stubborn. It increases your stewardship by 3, which is a lot. That is quite a lot, actually. It also gives you a small disease resistance health boost, which is just amazing, actually. Like, all these disease resistance bonuses, health bonuses, it basically means that your character can survive and, you know, live a long life, which is what you want usually, right? The only downside is it decreases your liege and vassal opinion by 5. 5 is not a lot. Like, if you have problems with your vassals because of Stubborn, yeah, it's really not because of Stubborn. It's because of something else. So 5 is not a lot. I really like Stubborn, and I think it's an S tier, God tier trait because of the 3 stewardship. It's just amazing. All right, Forgiving. Forgiving is a tricky one. Usually, when you're playing like feudal countries, in Europe, you're a Catholic, right? And forgiving is a virtue to them, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it gives you that +10 opinion bonus and +1 fate per month, which is great. Forgiving also has +2 diplomacy, +1 learning, really good stats, -2 intrigue. Unless you're playing intrigue character, you don't really care too much. It has like +15 prisoner opinion, kind of like, which I don't quite understand. Like, it would make sense if you release them that they would get extra opinion, but when they're actually imprisoned, they get extra opinion. Okay. Yeah. Like, all of these are really good, right? Like, other than the intrigue lost. So why is it not an S tier? Why is it not an A tier? Well, because you gain stress through blackmail and murder. Now, maybe you don't murder too much, as we talked about, you're not an intrigue character if you're forgiving. But, like, blackmailing is actually a really good, one of the, like, best ways to get hooks, right? Blackmailing gives you hooks, weak hooks, and strong hooks. And, you can then exchange these hooks for favors and stuff, like, or for money if you have the right perks. Blackmailing for hooks is just so useful in this game. And you can have a lot of blackmails, actually. If you put your spy master to your court, for example, to your capital, he can uncover so many secrets, and you can't really do anything with those secrets if you have forgiving, because you can't blackmail. Otherwise, you're just gonna get overwhelmed with stress, every time you blackmail someone, you just get like 30 stress or something. So yeah, I do like forgiving. It's a great trait, especially when you're playing as Catholic. But like, yeah, the stress gain for blackmailing a murder is just too bad for it. So I put it into B tier. Maybe it should be an A tier, but yeah, for now, sticking into B tier because of blackmail stress gain. The opposite is vengeful. Now, vengeful, of course, is just an intrigue trait, right? I do like to play intrigue characters occasionally, you know, but it's just a situational bonus. Like all of the intrigue traits are situational, which is why they're either A or B. So they're really strong situational bonuses, but they're not always useful. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, Vengeful has +2 intrigue, +2 prowess, because that's +15% red gain. That's good. It has success chance against rivals. Now you don't get as many rivals actually as you want to. Maybe like if you're actually playing an intrigue character and you like aim for getting as many rivals as possible, then yes, you will get this bonus. But you won't encounter this that much. It decreases your diplomacy by 2, which makes sense because you're an intrigue character. The good thing about this is that you lose stress through execution and murder, but only for rivals. Right, so yeah, if you have a lot of rivals and you're an intrigue character, then this is an amazing trait for you. This could easily be an S tier for you. But overall, as I talked about, I put Vengeful into B. It's a strong situational trait. Yeah, I really like that when I'm playing an intrigue character. Yeah, not much else to say about it, I guess. Alright, moving on. Generous. When I started playing this, I was like, yeah, +3 diplomacy, that's great, monthly income, who cares, it's like, whatever. It really isn't. Monthly income is quite important, especially when you're feudal. For tribes, I can understand, +3 diplomacy, like, you don't really care about money that much when you're tribal. But at the same time, when you're tribal, you really like to go to war anyway, so like, it's like 3 diplomacy is not gonna help you too much. And -10% monthly income is actually really, really bad in my eyes. So yeah, I put generous into C tier because of that. I mean, it could be like situationally strong, I guess. 3 diplomacy is always nice, but the monthly income is just, in my eyes, too bad. So yeah, I cannot justify putting it higher than C. The opposite of that is greedy. And that's the other way around, basically. So you get +15% monthly income and -2 diplomacy. You can see right here, like, you get 3 diplomacy. There you only lose 2, but you get +15% monthly income. I think it's just too good for that reason only. Like, +15% monthly income for feudal governments, it's just amazing. Because you need a lot of money as feudal. You needed to build a lot of buildings, you needed to maintain and actually recruit your men-at-arms, your knights and stuff like that. Money is the king when you're playing feudal, really. You also gain stress through gifting gold to other people, and you're losing stress through extra taxes, which I guess is okay. I actually never, I think, like encountered this that it like any way that it would help me. But yeah, like this trait just overall for the monthly income, I think it's really good. The -2 diplomacy kind of hurts, which is why it's not an S tier, but it's an A tier overall for me. If you're playing tribal, maybe it's gonna be like lower priority for you, but yeah, overall I think A tier is good enough. Alright, then we have Gregarious. I hope I pronounced this right. Gregarious, I think. Alright, you get +2 diplomacy, which is nice. +5 attraction opinion, which is okay, I guess. It's only 5, but whatever. +15% personal scheme power. It's actually good. That is basically the speed of like swaying people, befriending people, and stuff like that. Romancing people as well. It's the speed, not the actual like success chance, by the way. So yeah, I think it's a good bonus, and yeah, then you get stress loss through feasting, which is just great. You want to feast as much as possible when you have the gold anyway. So yeah, Gregarious, if you look at Gregarious, there is just no minuses. There is no red numbers, right? So like this has to be an S tier, and it is. Like it's good. It's a good trait, you know. It doesn't, you know, there isn't anything detrimental about that. Yeah, I really like Gregarious. It's also virtuous or a virtue for, I think, I can't remember. It's definitely a virtue for some fate that I play as quite often. But yeah, Gregarious an S tier for me. All right, then we have Shy. Shy is a bad trait in my eyes. You get +1 learning, which is okay. You get resistance for hostile schemes. Yeah, hostile schemes, and you get +15 for people who have Shy as well. That's all the bonuses you get, but you lose +2 diplomacy, you lose opinion, attraction opinion, and your own personal scheme power is -15%. It's just like, compare these two. Who would pick Shy over Gregarious? I think no one would pick that over Gregarious, which is why Shy in my eyes is a D tier trait. Yeah, I don't really think there's anything good about it other than like +1 learning and maybe the scheme resistance. Yeah. Alright, Honest. Now with Honest you get +2 diplomacy, you lose 4 intrigue. And you know, it would be okay, right? If you're playing a diplomatic character, you don't care about intrigue that much, so +2 diplomacy would be nice, intrigue, whatever. The problem is this, again, like stress gain through blackmail. Blackmailing is for now pretty, you know, strong mechanic to gain hooks, and hooks, as we explained before, can be transformed into like other favors, you know, into marriages, into gold if you have the light perk, stuff like that. So again, blackmailing is a really good way to gain hooks, which is why this trait is just not that good for it. Because you will get overwhelmed by stress, you'll suffer mental breakdowns. Yeah. Which is quite sad, because I really like Honest, like, on my diplomatic characters, but I know that I cannot blackmail with them, so it's a C tier for me. Yeah, it's gonna be the same with Trusting, it's the same with the Compassionate Generous. Like, all the diplomatic traits are there, they can be situationally really strong for, well, diplomacy characters, but like, even characters with high diplomacy want to blackmail. They just do, I feel like. So yeah, it's a C tier for me. The opposite is Deceitful, which does the opposite. Well, it has +4 intrigue, -2 diplomacy. No penalties, no gains for like blackmailing and stuff. So Deceitful is really like situationally really strong, which is why it's in A tier. Because as you can see, like, A tier is really strong situational trait, which this is. It increases your intrigue by 4. God damn it, like 4 is a lot of intrigue. So yeah, it's not a good trait overall, but it's a situational trait which is really strong. So yeah, which is why Deceitful is in A. Alright, then we have Humble. Now, when you look at Humble, you're like, yeah, you get like, you know, +0.5 piety. That's nice. Opinion of Leashes +10, Opinion of Vassals +10, Opinion of Priests and stuff +10. What's not to like? Well, it doesn't really give you anything. The +5, 0.5 monthly piety is like okay, but you have fates, right? Or every character, you know, or every nation has some fate that they follow, right? And you have virtues for that fate, and sins, of course. Virtues, as we talked about, increase your monthly fate or piety by 1. So why would you pick Humble that increases your piety by 0.5 when you can have another trait that increases piety by 1, plus it has other bonuses? For example, if I look at Temperate right here, Catholics, you know, have Temperate as their virtue, which means they will get, you know, +1 fate or monthly +1 monthly piety, and then they'll get +2 stewardship and a small health boost. It's just, Humble is just not that good. You know, if it was like, even if it was like +1 monthly piety, I think it would be good. It would have to be like +2, and then it would be like maybe too good actually. So it's really hard to balance this. But like humble just doesn't really give you anything, unfortunately, which is why it's D tier for me. Like, yeah, I can't imagine a situation where this would be more useful. Maybe like if you follow a fate which has virtues that you don't really like, that none of them you would pick, you know, then maybe humble is good because it increases your piety. But yeah, like other than that, virtues are always better than humble. So yeah, that's why it's D tier in my eyes. Then you have arrogant. Arrogant is like an okay trait, I feel like. You know, increases your monthly prestige by 1, decreases your opinion of vassals, liege, and yeah, the opposite trait opinion, of course, -15. 5 is not that bad, honestly. Like you can fight it easily, as we talked about with stubborn. And the monthly prestige is nice. You know, you might look at it and be like, yeah, it's 1 monthly prestige, who cares? Well, prestige is usually modified by percentages as well, which is why it's like this +1. It might be like +120, +130, depending on you know, how many percentage bonuses you have. So it's really higher than this usually. So yeah, and prestige is still kind of important in this game. It's not as important as gold, I feel like. For clans, or sorry, for tribes, it definitely is. So having tribal government and arrogant trait is just amazing. That might be an S tier for you. Very important trait. But yeah, overall, I feel like arrogant is just B tier. It's really strong. I think there are better traits than that. But as I said, for tribal governments, definitely a good trait. Alright, then we have just. Now, I'm wondering why I put just that high, because I talked about in C tier, you know, there's compassionate, generous, honest, trusting, you know, these traits that you get stressed through blackmail. Well, with just, I feel like you get more bonuses than with the other traits, right? You get +2 stewardship, which is always useful, +1 learning, which is good. You lose intrigue, makes sense, you're just. You get vassal opinion, yeah, like these bonuses are really good, you know, it increases your stats by 3. And then you get, of course, the stress gain through blackmail, which is why I like didn't put this into C as the other traits that that you gain stress through blackmail. I put this actually into B. I feel like just is just a tiny bit better than, for example, honest, because honest increases your diplomacy by 2. This increases your stewardship and your learning. You know, yeah, I just feel like it's slightly better than honest. You know, it's like a low B tier for me, while honest might be like higher C tier. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, these are basically like interchangeable. This really depends on how you want to play your character. If you're playing a diplomatic character, then honest might be better for you. If you're playing like a stewardship character, then just is definitely better for you. Yeah, like when you're playing, you know, a character with high stewardship, then you don't really need that much gold as well, which means you might not blackmail too much. You know, it's, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like, I think it's just a tiny bit better than honest. Then there's arbitrary. Now arbitrary, again, as we talked about, is a situationally really strong trait. It increases your intrigue by 3, your natural dread by 15, which is just great, as we talked about with the wrathful, and it decreases your stress gain by 50%. Now, usually, like, you don't care about like stress gain. You know, you will fight it off with like feasts and hunts and like the athletic trait, for example, stuff like that. 50% is quite okay, actually. It's really not bad. The only thing that goes against arbitrary, if you compare this to like deceitful, right? You lose diplomacy in deceitful, which is okay if you're an intrigue character, but you lose stewardship here and learning, and also vassal opinion, and you get less intrigue than deceitful. I think it's really good for like dreadful characters. You know, if you go for the perks in the intrigue tree that increase your dread and stuff, then this might be really good. But yeah, overall, I think it's just slightly worse than Deceitful, which is why I put this into B tier. Again, strong situational trait, I feel like, so B tier. Alright, we're getting there. We have Patient. Patient, I feel, is a good trait. +2 learning, +10 hostile scheme resistance, which is okay, and you get increased opinion of vassals and your liege. Yeah, the only downside is -15 opposite trait opinion, so people who are impatient are gonna like you less. Yeah, who cares? Like, you're not gonna meet, that many impatient people, honestly. So I feel like patient is really good. The only problem kind of is that some of the events and stuff like that can get you a lot of stress if you want to like gain some lands or have like some opportunities to expand your realm or whatever, like through decisions, events and stuff. You will actually gain stress because you should be patient, right? It only increases your learning by 2. It doesn't give you any other stats. Like it's good. It doesn't really have any disadvantages to it. It's just not that good. It's B tier for me, but I do like to play with patient. I think it's fine, especially when you like wanna change your fate or like be a scholar. If you're a culture head, then that +2 learning is really nice. So yeah, patient, I think it's B tier. Impatient is B tier for me as well. Again, like these are two traits that aren't like lazy and what's the other one? Lazy and diligent. Like they just like the opposite. This is a good trait. This is not. Impatient is quite a good trait actually. You get +20% monthly prestige, as we talked about with arrogant. Monthly prestige percentages are really good. You can get base prestige by multiple choices. If you, for example, have arrogant +1 and then you have this percentage bonus, then you're basically getting more from arrogant as well. Yeah, impatient, I feel really good for the prestige, especially again for tribe governments. This is an amazing trait for them. You also get +15% hostile scheme power, which is okay. It basically means that your murdering schemes, abducting schemes, and stuff like that, they'll just progress faster, which is more important, I feel, than the personal schemes, because personal schemes usually they don't take too long, but with the hostile schemes they actually take quite some time, especially like murder, when you want to murder someone and stuff like that. Yeah, it really takes a long time, so this can actually help. The only downside, of course, is the -2 learning. The opinion, as we said, is 5. It's not that it's not that bad, but the -2 learning really hurts impatient, which is why again impatient is B just as well as patient. So yeah, patient, impatient, both very good traits. If I get them in my game, I'm usually happy with both. So yeah, I like those. All right, then we have temperate. Temperate, I think I'm kind of biased because I played a lot of Catholic feudal governments in like my past few games. I really like playing feudal nowadays, and temperate is actually a Catholic virtue, which again increases your fate by 1 per month and gives you +10 opinion. Other than that, if you weren't Catholic, whatever, it increases your stewardship by 2, which is great. You get +10 for opinion for people who have the same trait, and -10 for people who have gluttons. But you also get small health boosts, and I feel like this is actually the only trait that gives you health boost. Stubborn only gives you these disease resistance health boost, which is not as useful as the health boost. So this can actually make you live longer, which means you will get more money over time. And again, there's one red number, which doesn't really mean anything because it's like, with all the traits, you get the opposite trait opinion -10 with all the traits, 15 sometimes, whatever. So temperate is just a really good trait. And as I said, I might be biased by playing the Catholic feudal governments, which is why I put temperate into S. But if you look at the stats, it really has no negatives to that. Stewardship is always nice, and the small health boost is just amazing in my eyes. So I do like temperate. I do not like gluttonous. I hope it's pronounced correctly again. Gluttonous. I've never heard that word before, so I hope it's right. you get plus 10% stress loss. Yeah, uh, no, like it's such a small number, it doesn't really matter. It's like, when you get 30 stress, it's 3 stress. It's just not good. You lose 2 stereotype, which is not good as well, and that's all there is. Okay, you lose 5 attraction opinion. Like you have greed with it adds greed, so it's not good for vassals as well. It's just not a good trait overall. Yeah, it's not a good trait, which is why it's with Craven and Lazy in the E tier, in the choke tier, in the trash tier, whatever you want to call it. These 3 traits are basically absolutely detrimental to your character. Like imagine getting all 3 of those. I would just uh, demonetize myself. Yeah, in the game, of course. Anyway, moving on, we have trusting. Trusting, as we talked about with honest and generous, the issue with trusting is that you gain stress through blackmail. It has nice diplomacy. You lose to intrigue. The opinion of legion and vassals is actually very good. Like 15 is a nice number. The problem is as well that the enemies have plus 15 hostile scheme success chance, and adding success chance to enemy hostile schemes is just a not good way. Like it's not a good way to live. You might get killed because of that. You might get abducted because of that. Yeah. I mean, trusting is okay because of the opinion, because of the diplomacy, but again, this is bad. Intrigue loss is bad, and stress gain through blackmail is bad. So that's why trusting, in my eyes, C tier together with the other diplomacy, basically bonuses that also give you stress through blackmailing. Paranoid. Now, paranoid is the same with all the other intrigue traits. It's situationally really, really strong. It increases your intrigue by 3. It increases your threat gain by 25%, which is quite a nice number. It gives you plus 10% to your scheme discovery chance, which is okay. And it decreases the enemy personal scheme success chance by 25. Which, if you just compare to trusting, is just amazing. Like, you will not get killed. Well, you shouldn't, unless you're very unlucky. So, if there are people who hate you, and there will be people who hate you if you're playing an intrigue character, then they will just not kill you. They will have like 5% chance to kill you, which is just, it will be really unlucky if you die. Think about paranoid is it decreases your diplomacy by 1, which is like, yeah, you're an intrigue character. It decreases your opinion of all your vassals by 10, which is quite bad actually. But the biggest thing is plus 100% stress gain. You have other traits in here that increase your stress gain. Ambitious, for example, S tier trait increases stress gain by 25%. Compare it to paranoid, plus 100% stress gain. There are some events or situations where you can gain like 50 stress. It is possible. And with this, you will basically fill your entire meter. You will get 1 stress level with that. Yeah, that is really bad actually. That's why it's so bad to be paranoid. But other than that, like if you're playing an intrigue character, I guess you don't care that much about stress, because you would only get stress from like honest and like compassionate actions, which you won't really do. So yeah, paranoid in my eyes is an A tier because it's really strong situational trait. It's definitely not a strong trait overall, but situationally it's really strong. Then we have Zealous. I really like Zealous. I think it's good, but sometimes I just don't want to have it on my character. Plus 2 martial is nice for my playstyle, as I talked about. Plus 20% monthly piety is actually amazing, because it's a percentage bonus, as we talked about. So if you stack all these, plus 1, plus 1, plus 1, this increases it by quite a lot actually. And you can get some crazy piety in this game if you want to play that way. By the way, with all the virtues and stuff, if you're like plus 2 virtues of your fate, and then you have Zealous, you get a lot of piety. You can create your own fate really quickly. The thing about Zealous is it decreases different fate opinion by 35, which is a lot, you know. If you, like, for example, create your own fate, then everyone around you is just gonna hate you, usually, you know, because yeah, you have different fate with them, so that's minus 35. Then there's also a modifier for like actually different fate. I think like it's just too bad. I don't know what the default number is for different fate opinion, but minus 35 is just too bad. It also increases your fate conversion cost by 20%. So yeah, the fate that you're getting is basically taken when you convert, you know, the extra fate you're getting. So yeah, that's those. You also lose stress through execution, which is actually okay. You know, there is this fate bonus where you can execute people without losing fate, and Vikings, of course, can even gain fate when they're executing someone. So stress loss through execution for Vikings, for example, it's just really good trade, Zealous. I mean, because you're losing stress by executing, you're also gaining fate by executing people, if they're of different fate, of course. So yeah, I feel like Zealous is a really good situational bonus, but it has some really, you know, bad negatives to that, which is why I put Zealous into B. Like, strong situational trait, definitely. I would even say like it's a decent trait overall. Like, for people who don't care about piety, I guess it's good because it gives you +2 martial, but there are just better traits for that. The opposite of that is cynical, which increases your intrigue by 2, your learning by 2. It gives you minus 20% bonus to fate conversion cost, but it also gives you minus 20% piety. So yeah, if you're playing faith character, I feel like Zealous is better, because especially like when you want to create, well, when you don't want to create your own faith, then Zealous is definitely better, or converts to another faith. But if you know, if you don't care about fate too much, it just depends on your playstyle. If you like martial skill, then Zealous is definitely better for you. If you like intrigue or learning, cynical is definitely better for you. Yeah, this is actually why I put these both into B tier. Like, you know, it's focused too much on like piety or non-piety, you know, games, when usually you just don't really care that much about piety. You don't care that, you know, fate conversion cost is decreased or that piety is decreased and vice versa. But overall, like, I think cynical is good for the intrigue and learning. So for intrigue character, I think it's really good. Yeah, I talked too much about it, I think. So cynical, B tier for me. I cannot put it higher, I think. Like, the intrigue and learning bonus are nice, but it doesn't really give you anything else. Yeah, I think I cannot put it higher than that. Alright, then we have these 3 traits. So, compassionate. Compassionate, I'll go through this quickly actually. Just like generous, honest, and trusting, this is a diplomatic trait that also increases your attraction opinion. It lowers your intrigue by 2. It lowers your natural dread by 15, which is not good. That's really not good. It also increases decay by 100%, so you'll just not be dreadful and compassionate. And you also gain stress through blackmailing people. Yeah. Like, if you don't care about blackmail, then I guess all these diplomatic traits could be good for you. As you can see here, the compassionate, generous, honest, and trusting, you know, they could all be good for you. But if you do want to gain some hooks, blackmailing, again, very useful way to get them, which is why it's C tier for me as well. Alright, then we have the 2 opposites, callous and sadistic. Now, callous, it increases your intrigue by 2, nice for intrigue characters. It decreases your tyranny again by minus 20%. It's not as useful, honestly. You do not want to do tyranny acts anyway. You usually want to like use hooks when you would otherwise get the tyranny penalty. But I guess it's there. It's like, okay, you know, doesn't matter. You gain 25% more threat, and it decays 25% slower, which is great for threat. As we said, threat is important for your character. You lose -2 diplomacy though, which is like 2 is quite, you know, it's a decent number. You also lose -5 opinion with your close family and the attraction opinion, which again, -5 is not a lot, but it's there, you know. You can see these 3 red numbers and you're like, yeah, this isn't a good trait. Well, it is. It's situationally good, I guess, which is why I again put Kalos together with a lot of the other like, intrigue traits into B tier. Yeah, it's good, but it's not that good. Alright, last but not least is Sadistic. Now, Sadistic is an interesting one because it has a modifier like no other trait here, which is this. You can use hostile schemes against your own children. And you also lose stress through execution and murder. Sorry, I talked too long. You know what I mean. Yeah, that's potentially really good. That's so, you know, strong situationally that it just changes the whole game for you. You can just kill your own kids, and you know, you don't have to care about succession laws when you only have one living child, right? Well, other than that, it increases your intrigue by 2, your prowess by 4, and your dread by 35. That's just amazing. This is just an amazing trait. The only downside is that you get -10 opinion with everyone, and that is quite a lot. And a lot of people are actually not gonna like you because you're sadistic. You know, if you're Catholic, that's a sin as well. Yeah. If you're not planning to kill your own children, if you're not planning to do intrigue, I guess it might still be good for the dread. But yeah, I just think that Sadistic is an A tier. It's really strong situational trait. It's really situational, and it's one of the best situational traits you can actually get. But again, it cannot be S tier because it's not always useful for your character. I'll actually keep the trait list up because we went through all of them. This was a longer video than I actually expected. I wanted to, you know, just go through them quickly, but yeah. Then like I also think about these traits, you know, if I put them in the right order. I think this list is okay, you know. Some of these, you know, might be moved from B to A or to C, stuff like that. But in general, I mean, everyone I think is gonna agree with the E tier, for example, Craven, Gluttonous, Lazy. Yeah, these are just not good traits. And as you can see, like the S traits, as we went through them, they're just really strong. They either give you really good stats to your skills, or just boost your health as well, together with some like stewardship and stuff like that. So yeah, as I said in the beginning, if you don't agree with me on some of these traits, or if you actually agree and you think this trait tier list is amazing, then leave a comment down below. And as I said, if you liked, make sure to subscribe and like, and I'll definitely make some more content about the Crusader Kings 3, because as I said, it's an amazing game. I think it's very complex. Just these traits alone, you know, can make for very interesting characters, and that didn't touch, like, you know, we didn't touch the educational traits and like, you know, stress loss and stress gain traits, congenital traits. All of these traits are there. These are just the personality traits, and it just makes the game so complex, which is, I think, why you've been looking for this video, if you found it, because yeah, you just want to get some, you know, general advice about it. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.